With the college football season officially over and the national championship being bestowed on the Ohio State Buckeyes in a convincing fashion up until the fourth quarter, we've seen basically about everything we want to see on the football field. We are going to see the pro day and the combine with their athleticism, with specific attributes that we're going to need to know about, their interviews with certain teams that are interested in them. We've seen how certain players play for their teams, like Jack Sawyer. We've seen how players step up in certain situations, like Quinshon Judkins, who got 3 touchdowns. We've seen just about everything we want to up to this point. Up to this point, we're going to find out more later on. And still, as of right now, I'm going to make it very clear there are no trades. There are no trades whatsoever until there starts being speculation about certain trades. We're going to go into certain outcomes of those trades. We're going to see what the Titans do, because I still believe the Titans need to trade down at the end of the day to get the most value that they can for the first pick, still be able to get their player that they probably want, but at a later position, obviously getting what they can from another team that would be willing to get up there for maybe a Shador Sanders in the Las Vegas Raiders, who seem very desperate for that. Things like that. We're going to go ahead and see with this one, though. And I'm excited because I know the title of the last mock draft was Abdul Carter at the first pick. He is going to be the first pick for this one right now. I like Abdul Carter a lot, and I think that he is trending in a way of possibly being a Myles Garrett type of impact on a team like the Tennessee Titans. It's either the Titans are going to go Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, and I just think Abdul Carter has a lot more talent in terms of pureness at the edge position. Obviously, Travis Hunter is very talented in terms of being a sort of jack of all trades. I feel like he's not a master of any right now. So once I see that, maybe I'll be more convinced about that. But Abdul Carter, the way that he played coming off the end of the season, coming into the college football playoffs, I personally think that the Titans should go with Abdul Carter if they keep this pick. Now, this is only if they decide that they're going to keep the pick, they don't get enough value for moving down a significant amount, like a team to the maybe even the Raiders. That's probably a bit far to count on Abdul Carter being there. But we'll have to see. That seems like the only team that's probably desperate enough to move to the number one spot other than Giants. But I like Abdul Carter a lot going to the Titans. I think it would be a good fit. I think he could have a big impact if he continues on the trajectory that he's on right now. Now, moving on to the Cleveland Browns, I am going to have Travis Hunter going to Cleveland. Unfortunately for the Browns organization, they're in a bit of a debacle for the QB position, and they're trying to scratch and claw at anything to get off of Deshaun Watson's contract, like the TikTok that he posted that he was wearing no sort of boot or cast on his torn Achilles leg. That could void the contract. I don't know if they're going to actually do it, but I think either way, I don't know. I don't think that they're going to go with a QB in the draft, per se, at least in the first round, because they've been on that consistent pace of they either try to get a QB, try to get a QB. It never usually works. Their coaching's probably ass. The Baker Mayfield situation where it was just jumping from coach to coach. He tried to play through an injury, ended up screwing him. He ended up jumping from 2 or 3 different teams to finally going to the Bucs and being their quarterback of the future for the time being. But I don't see the Browns going in a way of reaching for a QB in this draft specifically. I know a lot of teams are not fantasizing too much over this one, and a team like the Browns could be part of that. And I think this could be a best player available type of situation, especially in a Stefanski-based scheme, and him always wanting to have something up his sleeve or a certain type of willingness to be able to involve Travis Hunter on both sides of the ball. Now, if he doesn't, then still, that's great. He's a great cornerback in terms of being able to get your turnovers that you need late in the game. Travis Hunter is able to do that, and I think he has the talent to go number 2. Still like Abdul Carter a lot. I think he kind of jumped Travis Hunter on my board for sure. As the New York Giants are at the 3rd spot, And they're a team that are in desperate need. And there's no other way that they can do it. As much as my dream world has Justin Fields going to this team, playing with Malik Neighbors, Justin Fields ends up developing. I think Justin Fields has a lot of untapped potential, and he's just been in very, very unfortunate situations with the Bears that he ended up playing very well towards the end of his time there. They end up moving on from him, going with Caleb Williams. Now they have Ben Johnson, so maybe that works out. But the Giants getting Justin Fields would work out in a way of he actually gets time to play his games, not have to worry about the next guy coming in like Russell Wilson. Justin Fields went 4-2, and then Russell Wilson proceeded to come in and go 6-6. Come on, or 6-5, whatever you want to say. But either way, it was not as good of a record that Justin Fields was having, and it was him picking up the pace towards the second half of it. And I think he should have gotten more of a chance to perform. I honestly thought that Russell was going to sit on the bench until he really didn't perform, and they kind of just switched spots because that's what happens. But I don't see Justin Fields going to the Giants as of right now until I see something happen with that. But with that being said, I am going to have Cam Ward going to the New York Giants. I mean, he's the most talented quarterback to me, in my eyes, and the most mature. I don't see a team like the Giants reaching on Shedeur Sanders in a situation that they are very desperate to get a quarterback that's going to help them win right now. And I think Cam Ward is able to do that, knowing his weapons, knowing what he has on his offense. Solid offensive line. They performed a little bit better this year. But he has Theo Johnson. He has Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson. I think that all those weapons he's going to appreciate and he's going to be able to utilize them. Now, hopefully they go with defense later in the draft, but we'll have to see about that. The New England Patriots, at the 4th overall pick. I mean, I'm still going to ride strong on this, and that's going to be T-Mac. That's going to be T-Mac going to the Patriots. I think with the new regime in the coaching with Mike Vrabel coming in and the pairing of just Drake May and a player like T-Mac that can really do it all in terms of just being that jump ball type of receiver, but also having the yards after catch or breaking tackles after the catch like a Puka Nacua or a Cooper Kupp. I think that T-Mac being alongside Drake May would be a beautiful pairing for years to come. And I think that Vrabel would be able to utilize that very well. But with the Jacksonville Jaguars at the 5th spot, Mason Graham is my guy for this spot. He's my guy because, unfortunately, we weren't able to see him in the playoffs to see him perform even better like we did with Jack Sawyer, who also had a great game against Michigan when they did play and ultimately lost, which ended up catapulting them into the national championship because they took that as a motivation to basically annihilate everybody else that they faced. But Mason Graham was a big reason for that win. I think that he has that kind of game wrecker ability to force a win for a team just because of his defensive ability and his ability to make the quarterback pressured and get the hits in, get sacks for basically the whole defensive line, not even just for himself. How many sacks did he have this year? He had 5 sacks, 9 hits, and 20 hurries. 1 batted down. Not bad at all. Not bad at all, but I like Mason Graham a lot. And he was getting double and triple team in those times. I am not opposed to him being on a defensive line that has Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker, who is continuing to develop, and Mason Graham can join him in that endeavor. But pick number 6, I mean, falls right into Mark Davis's lap. Shedeur Sanders is going to the Las Vegas Raiders if he falls to the 6th spot. I know that he's like, oh, I want to go first. I don't care where I go. Well, I want $1 million, and Shedeur Sanders is not going number 1, and I'm not getting $1 million. So Sanders fitting this Raiders scheme, especially with what they're probably going to have moving forward, I think is going to be good for them. The Brock Bowers and Shedeur Sanders combo is definitely intriguing to me because Shedeur isn't really used to having a good tight end that can also be a receiver at points. Now, I think that they will invest in the wide receiver position. Who, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure with that, but I think since they missed out on the Ben Johnson sweepstakes that everybody thought that they were going to get on the Raiders, I still think that they can definitely find somebody that can coach for them. No, it's not Deion Sanders. Let's just be very clear about that. But moving on to the New York Jets at the 7th spot. A lot of people have them taking a quarterback in later rounds. Obviously, not this one because Shador and Cam Ward are off the board. And, I mean, Dylan Gabriel is not the guy that's going to be going in the first round. But I do think that they're going to go defensive back. And it's not Will Johnson. I'm going to have them taking Malachi Starks at this position. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty with DJ Reed and if he's going to stay or not. That's for sure. But this could be a great pick either way, whether he leaves or stays. And while, yes, the cornerback room is lacking a little, I think the safety room is definitely lacking a little bit more. And Malachi Starks is probably the last... Nope, not. He's one of the blue chips on this board. And getting him would just be a perfect addition. Just simply because of talent. And it's not like you guys have a safety that's like, but we have to move this guy for him. No safety back there is beating Malachi Starks. And that's without a doubt in my mind. And at the end of the day, I do think that the Jets could go with that scenario. If there's Will Johnson and Malachi Starks and they have to pick between the two, I think they're going Malachi Starks. I love Will Johnson, which is why he's going to go to the Carolina Panthers. A great cornerback. The top cornerback in my eyes in terms of pureness, and he played tremendously for Michigan when he wasn't injured. And I think that adding him to this secondary that already has J.C. Horn on it, he can be the CB1 that J.C. Horn hasn't really been. J.C. Horn is great, but he's not your CB1 that you're like, oh, that's a Patrick Surtain II type of player. No, he's not, but Will Johnson can be that. And that duo would be beautiful. And it would feed families in Carolina. But moving on to the New Orleans Saints at pick number 9. The more I thought about it after the last mock draft that I made, I'm definitely taking an edge. No questions asked. I mean, I kind of wanted to try something else, but I just can't. I can't see them going anything else but edge. And with the potential and the, I guess, rawness, you can say, with James Pierce Jr. possibly going to the Saints, if they utilize him correctly, if they scheme him correctly, he can develop beautifully. And I think his just pure athleticism could get him to the next level of being possibly a star in this league, replacing Cameron Jordan. And I think him going to New Orleans would be a great pickup, which, I mean, some people have him going in the top 10, some people have him going in the bottom 10. We're going to have to see how that works, but I've always liked James Pierce Jr. I didn't really understand why the hype kind of died down for him, but I think regardless, they need to go with defensive line. But moving on to the Chicago Bears, we are going to be going Will Campbell like I tried to avoid in the last mock draft. But with the brand new hiring of Ben Johnson coming to the team, I think he's going to bring that type of mentality over from the Detroit Lions that he had in terms of the offensive line needs to be the focal point. They need to be great. You don't win games without a great offensive line, and adding Will Campbell to an offensive line that's probably losing Telvin Jenkins and needs help on the inside, Will Campbell can be the start of fixing that issue and helping Caleb Williams just have time. Jared Goff has time at most points, has time. And if he has to get out the pocket, he does it. He gets a couple yards and whatever. Caleb Williams is able to get out the pocket and get way more than that. But he needs to be able to trust his offensive line to stay in the pocket, step up in the pocket, and deliver a strike. Or stay in the pocket, step up, roll out if he needs to, if he sees the pocket collapsing. But Caleb Williams has that type of speed that Jared Goff just doesn't have. But with that being said, obviously, Will Campbell is going to Chicago. Ben Johnson I can't imagine that he doesn't go with a offensive trenches player. Almost like Harbaugh did whenever he went to the Chargers, instead of taking Brock Bowers like everybody thought he would. But the San Francisco 49ers. This one might be a questionable one for my 49ers fans, so close your eyes and close your ears. But I'm going to have Mike Green going to the 49ers. This man has shot up the draft board in the ending weeks of the college football season. And, I mean, for good reason. He has 32 hurries, 17 sacks, and 10 hits with a 9.4% run stop rate, which is not easy. It's not easy, and it's very impressive. His stats jump off the page. So this would be the type of guy that I could see the Niners getting because, he's not from a big school. He could perform even better for our team. It's a hit or miss situation, but I think it could hit since it is the 49ers scheme that would be utilizing him. And he just has an elite first step that would translate tremendously to the next level. So I'm going to have Mike Green going to the 49ers. I know 49ers are going to crucify me if they see that and they're like, oh, Josh Simmons is on the board. Oh, Calvin Banks is on the board. All these tackles. Defense needs some help. They do need some help. As much as you guys need depth at the tackle position. But the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, okay. I'm not going to wind that on for too long. Till I see any sort of rumor saying otherwise, I'm not going with any other pick but Ashton Genty. It's just and I'm sorry, Cowboys fans, but Genty's pure dominance in the backfield and the lack thereof for the Cowboys in the backfield is just a perfect match to rejuvenate this team that seemed just unmotivated all last season. Obviously, Dak got injured. But even before that, they got beat by the Saints, who ended up being one of the worst teams in the league. I just don't see it going any other way. Ashton Genty, I mean, again, I don't want to see him in the Dallas Cowboys uniform, but it's almost too perfect for him not to go there, as the Miami Dolphins are going to be taking Josh Simmons. As long as Will Campbell is not on the board, I can't see this pick changing in the slightest. This is the Dolphins' pick. Over any other tackle that's on the board. Obviously, Calvin Banks is still there, but he has great length, great size. He only allowed one player through, and I believe that could have been the only one for the entire season. To be honest with you, I think Josh Simmons is very talented. The only thing that we missed out from Josh Simmons is not being able to see him play more. But, I mean, most of these tackles just don't have, like, this unmatchable size that we saw maybe, like, last year with the Marius Mims and players like that. But I think that he'll fit in wherever the Dolphins want to put him. He does have a full college football season of playing right tackle. If you want proof of that, there it is. 799 snaps at right tackle. I think if they need him at right tackle, if they need him at left tackle, if he's developing behind Teron Armstead, it will work no matter what. But moving on to something else that would work beautifully as well, Tyler Warren going to the Indianapolis Colts. These three picks have basically been written in the stars since the end of the regular season, and that's because they're just all great fits for each team. Tyler Warren going to a Colts team that has Jonathan Taylor in the backfield and limited receiving options could very well make Tyler develop into a George Kittle type of player. And that means that we would have Bowers and Warren being the next Kittle and Kelsey for years to come, which, I mean, I'm going to enjoy every second of. But he's above average in the run blocking game, and his versatility in the passing game helps them tenfold. Helps them completely. And he only had 3 drops the entire season. He had 13 contested catches, which was third in the FBS, and 19 broken tackles, which was second in the FBS. I can't see it going any other way but Tyler Warren going and staying in blue. As the Atlanta Falcons at the 15th spot, I'm sticking with edge for them as well. I am sticking with edge with them as well. Mykel Williams is my guy for Atlanta. I think the Falcons need as much help as possible in terms of defending the run. And Mykel, with his phenomenal size, his athleticism, I can't see it any other way. He's the best run defender in this class, in my eyes, and they can't really go wrong with any other person but Michael Williams. I think he's going to be a great addition to this team. Now, with the Arizona Cardinals being on the board, this is a situation that if this player drops this far, regardless of the Cardinals needing defensive line desperately, honestly, I think they see the situation as they just can't let this guy go any further. That's Kelvin Banks Jr. Kelvin Banks Jr. could come in and fill in wherever they need him to. To be honest with you, I know that, we're going to move him from certain positions or the left side to the right side, whatever. A lot of situations now have teams drafting these offensive linemen, trying to move them to a certain position that they would need. Maybe they just put him at left guard in terms of Kelvin Banks. It would still help more than what that offensive line is doing for Kyler Murray right now. Because Kyler Murray, literally 2 seconds into the snap, he's already rolling out, which is one of the most tedious and annoying things to watch as somebody that just wants to see the quarterback go through his progressions, do what he has to do. Kyler Murray just always gets out of the pocket way too quickly, and I think it's because he just doesn't trust his O-line. And if you continue to bolster this O-line and you add more talent and you add more players to it that can help, I think he could get better. Now, if he doesn't and he still has the same habit, that's just one you have to move on from the guy. But the Cincinnati Bengals at the 17th spot are going to be taking Luther Burden. Tried and true method of moving on to the next wide receiver two of the Bengals, because the more the days pass by, the more I'm convinced that T. Higgins is going to leave the Bengals. I think that a lot of teams that are wide receiver needy are going to drop a bag on T. Higgins' desk, and he's just going to have too much that he's not going to be able to ignore. Because the Bengals are not going to have the money to be able to pay him what other teams are paying him or going to pay him. Like these playoff teams, maybe even like the Packers. I don't know about the Texans. The Ravens could be a sleeper in that situation because of them relying heavily on Zay Flowers to be a good wide receiver. Then he ends up being injured the entire playoffs. But Luther Burden, replacing T. Higgins, almost a similar play style of receiver. I think he just had very poor QB play during the season at Mizzou. I think that he would develop tremendously. And yes, I know that a lot of people want, Kenneth Grant, Shamar Stewart, get me defensive players. The identity of the Cincinnati Bengals team is having great young talent on the offensive side and too much that they can't even ignore. Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, now possibly Luther Burden, but it was always T. Higgins. Now they have Mike Gesicki, who's a pretty good option when Joe Burrow's utilizing him. They can find defense in free agency or later in the draft. I think they should do it in free agency so they can just have somebody that's already set in stone and they're not relying on a rookie to be the star of the defense. But we'll have to see what happens with that. I think they should invest the money that they would be paying T. Higgins onto the defense. But the Seattle Seahawks at the 18th spot, I think, are going to be taking Jalen Walker, who is listed as a linebacker, but he's more of an off-ball linebacker. I like him joining the Seahawks defense because he's great off the edge, which obviously I've already spoken about their free agency situation. And Jalen Walker has this dynamic ability that could bring a new regime and a new trend in for this now younger Seahawks defense, because this front seven has kind of been more on the older side compared to the secondary, and Jalen Walker could bring a new sort of era in that aspect. And I think that he could focus on the pass rush while the veterans focus on the run game, because he kind of relied on Michael Williams to show up for the pass rush or for the run defense while he did the pass rushing lifting. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 19th spot, also, I'm going to have them taking edge. I am going to have them taking edge, and that's Shamar Stewart. Shamar Stewart showed his talent in the recent season with Texas A&M and could bring a lot more. to this Bucks team that needs a lot of much needed help, with Vita Vea basically being the only guy that was getting through in the playoffs and when they needed him to. Kalijah Cansey, Joe Tryon just didn't really do anything. They haven't developed. They haven't done much. So they have to keep just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I think Shamar Stewart has the capability of being that type of guy that sticks. I think that him already adding to a great run defense that he excels at, and he'll be able to develop in the pass rush with that depth they already have with Cansey and Joe Tryon. I don't see why they don't go with Shamar Stewart. The Denver Broncos, though, are going to be taking my guy Colston Loveland. My favorite receiving option in this entire class, just because of his reliability. I always like reliable players going to certain teams that need reliable people. But the Broncos have not shown much of other desperate positions. Obviously, you see the wide receiver position says that it's a need. I don't see that being the case. Like, yes, they need more reliable options outside of Cortland Sutton. Marvin Mims is solid. I think that they can continue to utilize the guys that they have in that position. Linebacker, that's being led by Cody Barton. I don't see why they would invest that in the first round. And safety or defensive backs, I just don't. Maybe safety, since they did lose Simmons, but I feel like they should be able to get or pursue somebody in free agency. And if not, there's some good safeties later in the second round, like Nick Emanwari, maybe Xavier Watts if they're able to get him at the 20th spot in the next one. But I don't see them trying to invest in those type of positions at the 20th spot in the first round. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, as much as I've been wanting the Steelers to go with Morrison this entire time, and I've been very vocal and very straightforward about it, I've been convinced now that Emeka Egbuka is going to be going to the Steelers. Emeka Egbuka is very talented, and I think that he could be even better being relied on, like he probably will be, with whichever quarterback is going to be the Steelers quarterback. But with the rumors of Pickens possibly leaving, Emeka would have to step in and probably be the wide receiver 1. Now, I think Emeka should be the wide receiver 2 or the slot receiver, but if they get rid of George Pickens, I think he would be good. I don't know if he would be great. I think he would excel in the slot receiver type of situation, almost like a Chris Godwin type of fit. But I've been more and more convinced in my own head that the Steelers are really needing offensive help. And that's without a doubt. As the Los Angeles Chargers are on the clock at the 22nd spot. And, surprisingly enough, I'm not going to go Jack Sawyer. Normally, I would go edge if Colston Loveland wasn't on the board or Tyler Warren wasn't on the board. But in this position right now, I'm going to go with Omarion Hampton, as much as I love Cam Scattergood. Omarion Hampton had a very sneaky good season for the Tar Heels and could very well be available for the Chargers in the second round. But if they are not able to re-sign Dobbins, this would be a great pick to complement Herbert. And they desperately need to find a way to get a tight end for Justin Herbert. It's been the same thing over the past couple years. I think the reason why Herbert struggled so much is because he was so worried to get it to the receiver, since he knew that Ladd McConkey is his reliable guy. You need to get this man a tight end. You need to, because a tight end is going to be able to stay either in the middle or short and be able to get those hard-fought yards. But for right now, Omarion Hampton should be able to come in and help. I think that he would be a great running back, and he had a great season for North Carolina. And now they're going to be coached by Bill Belichick. But the Green Bay Packers are here, and they have seen so many quarterbacks just sitting here. And they can pick at whatever they want. But to be honest with you, I'm going to go with Jahdae Barron going to the Green Bay Packers. And Jahdae performed amazingly throughout the playoffs. He kept where him and the Texas defense kept the best wide receiver in college football to under 10 yards the entire game that they faced off against each other. Granted, Ohio State still won, but very, very good. And I liked Jahdae Barron before, but I think he could be even better if he's relied on as the CB1, since Jair Alexander's certain situation with the Packers is unknown. Jahdae Barron has been healthy, and that might be the deal breaker between him and Siobhan Revel for the Packers. So as we just spoke about Siobhan Revel, I'm going to have him going to the Vikings. Still, Benjamin Morrison is on the board, but I just don't think that he would excel in this type of scheme that the Vikings tend to run. Although Brian Flores might be on the way out. Not 100% sure if that's actually going to happen. But Siobhan Revel has that type of home run ability upside for him to come back and be a Quinyon Mitchell type of impact on this Vikings team that sometimes lacked ability or lack talent at the cornerback position other than Byron Murphy. And I think that would fit great if he's able to perform well. As the Houston Texans are going with the position that I've been more fond of for them. I know more people have gone with offensive line since they struggled a good bit with that. But I am going to go with Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State, who performed greatly over this playoff run, over the entire season really, but specifically as a run defender on the inside, and that is something that the Texans have been starving for. Because when teams run on the outside, I think they're ranked 7th in the league, 7th or 6th, and when teams run on the inside, they are 11th, which still isn't bad. It isn't horrible, but you want to defend the run to the best of your abilities, and if you have an opportunity at a late spot to get a defensive interior player that is known to be a run stopper, you take him and you put him on your defensive line to complement Will Anderson from Alabama, to complement Daniel Hunter, who just came from the Vikings last year. And, I mean, moving on to the 26th spot, I know Armand is still here, but I still like the fit with Wyatt Millum going to the Los Angeles Rams. I think that Armand is great at what he does. I think that the Rams are the type of team that they're going to focus on that height. They're going to look at the height and they're not going to care, oh, he has the arm length. They want Wyatt Millum because he was consistent for the West Virginia Mountaineers. He has the size, he has the length, he has the weight. And I think that he would be able to come on that team and make an impact immediately for a team that has a younger offensive line now. Granted, Hartenstein is still on the team, but an aging quarterback that might transition into a younger quarterback. And if they already have that offensive line set in stone, they'll be solid for years to come, as Sean McVay has not aged a day since he got to the Los Angeles Rams. As the Baltimore Ravens are here on the clock, and this is where Benjamin Morrison is going to stop the fall. Benjamin Morrison is going to bring just pure talent to this Ravens team that is in need of it. With their loss that they just had, I mean, you could see at points cornerback was a bit of a struggle for them, but they suffered greatly from it after last season. And I think they need to continue to invest in the defense, try to make it younger. Marcus Williams is probably on his way out as a safety. Depends on if they decide to re-sign him, but he has been injury-prone, really, in his time with the Ravens. But bringing in Benjamin Morrison should complement Nate Wiggins on that defensive side, since I think Benjamin Morrison is 6 foot. I was about to say 5'11". He might be 5'11" without shoes. But moving on to the Detroit Lions, this is where I'm going to have Jack Sawyer going. There's a lack of legitimate edge rushers in this Lions team because of injury. And, I mean, that was the main focal point against Jaden Daniels, because we saw it with the Bucs too. The edge was always open. If Aiden Hutchinson was on that side that Jaden Daniels was trying to get the first down for maybe like 4 or 5 yards, Aiden Hutchinson would have gotten him. But since they didn't have the depth, since they didn't have him healthy, he got the first down, and that was game. So I think bringing in Jack Sawyer, a guy that's very team-oriented, almost like an Aiden Hutchinson, but he plays for his team. He gets his motivation from playing for his team in those type of situations. I think he can perform well throughout the season as well because he just has talent. He's one of the best edge rushers in this class, in my eyes. I think he can bring a lot to this pass rush of the Detroit Lions, as the Washington Commanders are going to be my team that finally get Armand from Mizzou. And, I mean, he's been good. I just started finding out more about him recently. I won't lie to you. But with the situation that the Commanders are in, with Sam Cosmi just now getting injured for the rest of the season, obviously, because any injury right now is going to take you out for the next 2 weeks. And just having a tackle situation that is uncertain, you can get a guy that is going to at least be reliable for the time being. Maybe even if you keep the guys that you have somebody that's going to develop behind them, be able to step up when you need him to, and then he's there for 10 plus years. I think that's a great pick for them. I could also see maybe Matthew Golden. He's jumped up the rankings for sure, but I think wide receiver is just a position that I don't know that they would go with. I won't lie. Edge is an option with Nick Scorton. I like Nick Scorton a lot, although he is probably not going to go in the first round in this one, because the next pick is going to be Kenneth Grant going to the Buffalo Bills. And this is a dream come true for Buffalo. I mean, they've been needing defensive interior help for a good minute now. Their linebackers are all back. They've been getting more healthy. They've been getting into their sorts. Cornerback might still need some help, which they might try to pursue, or just re-sign Rasul Douglas and keep their guys that they have. But Kenneth Grant next to Ed Oliver and Greg Rousseau, possibly Max Crosby, which is rumors. Don't shoot the messenger. But I think that Kenneth Grant would be able to develop greatly next to Ed Oliver and just be a powerhouse in the middle, which tends to be where they struggle against the run, like they did against the Ravens early in the regular season, where he just kept running down the middle, would just ram past and 87 yards down the field. You can't have that. I think Kenneth Grant is going to be able to help that to the best of his ability, as the Philadelphia Eagles, who had a great year on the secondary, they had a great year on defense. I think they can get even better with aging players, and that's a given, but they do still have aging players in the secondary, and if they're able to minimize the cost and minimize the risk of losing one of those guys and then having an open spot, I think they can do that by getting Trey Amos, continuing to complement the superstar pick that they had with Quinyon Mitchell, the great pick that they had with Cooper DeJean. Trey Amos can come in, be that rookie cornerback that can bring even more tenacity to that Eagles defense. Thankfully, it's not another Georgia player that's going to join the Eagles, but I think that Trey Amos would be able to complement those two greatly for the foreseeable future, as the Kansas City Chiefs are now here. And I mean, it's pretty clear Josh Connerly is going to be the tackle that they're going to take. The Chiefs are in a position that they can't go any other route but tackle. And it's not just offensive line. They have the best interior offensive line in the league. And that's without a doubt. If they keep Trey Smith. They have Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, and I forgot his name. Of course I blanked on his name, but he moved out to left tackle because they needed it. You need to not let that happen. I'm gonna die from not knowing his name because I literally just blanked. I have a massive headache. But I know his name once I get off this recording. But I think that's the best pick for them. Josh Connerly Jr., he's performed greatly at Oregon. He should be able to come in and help. He should be able to come in and help this Chiefs offensive line that is trying to keep Patrick Mahomes as healthy as possible for the rest of his career. But obviously, that's going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to get back to that screen because I don't think I'm going to be able to. But with that being said, that is going to do it for this mock draft. If you disagreed with anything, let me know down in the comments below. If you agreed with a pick that I had for your certain team or a team that you've been following, let me know. I think most of these picks fit the threshold for a lot of them. I think that Shedeur Sanders could drop. I don't think Cam Ward would. I genuinely think that Cam Ward is going to be more highly touted coming into this draft. I still think that Sanders is going to get a lot of respect, though, without a doubt. Omarion Hampton was a bit of a iffy pick, but I think that the Chargers are trying to make sure that they have the firepower that they need on offense. I don't think they're worried about defense as much as I've been anticipating that they are. I think that Harbaugh trusts Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa to get it together and be good for the next couple of years. They could still take edge in the future or in the later rounds, but as of right now, Omarion Hampton's a great pick. Maybe even Quinshon Judkins, who just had a stellar game. Maybe not. Cam Scatterbo is also a great running back, a lethal running back, a lot of heart, which Harbaugh might like. But again, let me know down in the comments below what you think, and while you're down there, like so more people can see it, so we can get these conversations flowing, so we can get more ideas for these mock drafts going into the future of the season and the off season that is quickly approaching. It's crazy because I felt like we just started the regular season. But subscribe so you don't miss out on the rest of these mock drafts, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.